Welcome and thanks for joining me. I am your host Alejandro Cabrera. A long time ago, in a galaxy not so far away, the year was 1977, and a film by the name of Star Wars would change the world and cinema as we know it. 45 years later, during these current trying times, its powerful themes of good versus evil, a call to adventure, redemption, and choice continue to inspire a new hope in young and old audiences alike. In 2015, with the release of the highly anticipated seventh film in the saga, I embarked on a long journey across the state of Texas to find out how this epic space opera has impacted and inspired the lives of fans across the Lone Star State. After all, they say everything is bigger in Texas, and Star Wars is no exception. Take a look.
In life, there's a first time for everything. There's your first crush, and eventually, if you're lucky, the wedding day. And what a special day that is. There's the birth of your first child. And all the wonder and mystery and love that is involved in that. And then, there's the first time you watch Star Wars.
Obviously, here we go. One thing that I always do is if I meet somebody who's like, oh, you're a Star Wars fan, well, you weren't around whenever it first came out. I'm like, well, tell me, what was your experience? Like, I always ask people, what was your moment? Like, the opening scene, how did you enjoy it?
All of a sudden you see, Princess Leia's ship with C-3PO and R2-D2 on it, flying in this way, and you just see that laser firing back and forth with that Star Destroyer chasing it because it's trying to get the rebels.
I remember before I even got to see Darth Vader come through the door, I was already covered head to toe in a marathon candy bar, which was caramel with chocolate covering.
When you get taken to the movies, it's an event.
The first showing of Return of the Jedi at Highland Mall was at 11 this morning, but the line you see winding around three sides of the theater started forming at 10 for the 1:40 show.
My parents took me when I was 5 to go see Return of the Jedi.
The saga lives on. Return of the Jedi begins May 25th at a theater in your galaxy.
I had not seen Empire Strikes Back or Star Wars beforehand, so they took me to go see it and my mind was blown.
Return of the Jedi was one of the movies that I would watch over and over and over again when I was little.
First time I saw Star Wars, I was 10 years old. It was the 1995 release. I lived in Dallas and it snowed, so they canceled school. My dad had the idea that he wanted to binge watch VHS. And so we watched A New Hope and I was like, this is awesome. Me and my sister both were super excited. And my dad was like, okay, we'll wait until tomorrow to watch the next one. And I was like, I don't want to wait till tomorrow. He was like, no, gotta wait.
A lot of the conception is really, that people, that my generation, millennials, that they saw the prequels first. I was very lucky and fortunate to actually see A New Hope first. In the hood, on the San Joaquin, on the west side, and on Fox. It was literally on Fox. Yeah, it was Fox Channel 29, I believe. Because I didn't have cable. Man, not a lot of us were fortunate enough to have cable.
Star Wars has been around for 4 decades now. Every generation has experienced these films differently. There are those that saw it in the movies when they first came out. There are some that saw them on VHS. There are those who saw them on DVD or Blu-ray. The new generation is watching them on Disney+. No matter how you were first introduced to the films, the first time that you see them still has that same wow factor 40 years later.
For me, I think I watch it every time. I can watch those movies over and over and over, which we'll have a Star Wars weekend just to have one.
In 1980, my brother took me to see The Empire Strikes Back at the Grand Twin in Paris, Texas, and Laugh It Up Fuzzball made me laugh for 5 minutes, so much so that it annoyed him.
The earliest memories I had was C-3PO walking out on the Millennium Falcon, chasing R2-D2, saying, hey, come back here and fix my leg. And I remember distinctly holding onto the railing. Me being a very tall person, I'm like, that's gotta be really, really young.
The lines, classic one-liners, scruffy looking nerf herder. That's one of my favorites that she says. They just kind of come into everyday talk. I mean, anybody could do a one-liner from there and be like, oh, that's Han Solo, Star Wars.
I love you.
I know.
Fans like Lance Hathaway have a particular preferred viewing experience when it comes to Star Wars.
When The Empire Strikes Back came out, that's whenever I started paying attention. And once I saw it, I was making up for lost time. I instantly fell in love.
I headed to the easternmost city to meet with Lance. At just 113 miles from Houston and at the border with Louisiana lies the humble, small town of Orange, Texas.
What makes me connect to Star Wars personally would be the fact that I've been able to share it with my kids, turn them into true fans like myself.
I had been invited to check out his very unique, Texas-sized, Star Wars-themed home theater.
So, you've seen the galaxy far, far away?
Of course.
Okay, now you're about to enter a galaxy far, far away.
I have a bad feeling about this, but let's do this.
Well, this is it. It's been a long time in the making.
This is amazing.
It's been 4 years in the making, and it's finally complete. Once I started it, I couldn't stop.
I think everybody immediately gravitates towards the lights that kind of line the room. That's a real focal point of the place. Infinity mirror behind me. The infinity mirror has people puzzled for at least 10 minutes when they come in. They're looking at it and trying to figure out what's going on with it and why it looks like that. And of course the hologram table, that's a pretty neat little thing to show people.
So I've got a couple of pieces to show you in here. First one I'm going to start out with is right over my right shoulder here. This is actually me frozen in carbonite, not Han Solo. We made it out of plaster and fiberglass. A lot of mistakes that were made along the way whenever I was making it, but we held on to it and we made it and we finally got it finished. Panels you see around this thing, these are actually original casts of what they used in the movie. I added the shirt about a year ago because I couldn't figure out how to get the plaster to lay right whenever I had it, and so we ended up just saying, hell with it, we're doing it bare-chested until we can figure it out.
So that's Lance Solo.
That's Lance Solo. But anyway, he did actually score me 10 free tickets for me and my friends to go see The Phantom Menace 20 years ago when I built it. Over here we got Yoda. That's my son's friend. That's actually his, and he kind of has put it over here and hasn't taken it out yet.
What inspired you to create this epic Star Wars room?
You have fandoms and everything. You know, the state of Texas, everybody loves the Dallas Cowboys. Everybody loves NASCAR. Me, myself, I love Star Wars. I wanted to be able to feel like I was 10 years old again every single time I walked in this room.
I think I was around 7 or 8 when my dad started talking about wanting to turn our storage room into a movie room. It just kind of took shape after that. Once we started getting ideas in, it kind of snowballed. The first time I ever used a nail gun was nailing in the ceiling up here, and Dad let me climb up on the ladder and pop in the nails. That was fun.
I painted the walls the battleship gray and had it laid out kind of like the Death Star. It wasn't near to the extent that it is now. It was kind of a good starting point for me to judge what I was going to be doing off of that, but then circumstances changed after I had completed it.
For Lance, making this Death Star-inspired theater fully operational came with its set of challenges, given the area his home is located in.
I live in a flood-prone area. Hurricane season is really rough around here. Not just me, but for all of the neighbors, the whole neighborhood.
Historic flood disaster in southeast Texas is likely to continue for days or even weeks. The news is not good there this morning.
Greater Houston remains paralyzed, a region of 6.8 million people sheltering in place as the flooding disaster unfolds.
Overnight, after torrential rains battered Texas, residents are bracing for more rain. Tropical Storm Harvey, now a history-making disaster, dumping more than 2 feet of rain on Houston over the weekend. Another 2 feet expected to come.
During the flood of Harvey, we had over 4 foot of water in the house, and I was about 95% completed on this room whenever the flood happened. So you can imagine the knockdown that had. Well, this is it. This is the remnants of our neighborhood of Cajun Way in Orangefield, Texas. All these neighbors, all these people, all these families that are displaced are in the exact same boat I am. You know, no flood insurance, not knowing what they're going to do, where they're going to go. And this is my family right here in front of me with what's left of our life.
After all the flooding, it was kind of just a culture shock. We all had so much stuff going on that it was like, where are we even going to begin with any of this?
We ended up having to go in, gut the entire house, gut it back to the bricks and the studs, and basically start over. As trying and challenging and depressing as that was, it actually gave me an opportunity, because once I got in here and started really looking at things, my mind started going, started thinking, well, man, I can actually rewire this thing. I can put plugs where I need it to add special effects. And so I took that opportunity to do that at that time. I wanted to see this thing through. I knew what I saw in my mind. And even though I had to start over, I went ahead and did it, and I chose to stay with it till I had it done. This theater helps me and my son just share good quality time in here together, you know, whether we're just relaxing on a rainy Sunday or at night after work, being able to just relax in here and camp out and play video games.
Everybody set up our game systems all together and play in here. It's a big enough room for about 4 or 5 people to set up in here.
I've incorporated a retro arcade system with all kinds of video games from the 80s and 70s, which a lot of my guys my age enjoy.
This redefines the term home theater. I'm just in shock. This is just grand.
Thank you. It's festive, but you know what? At the end of the day, nobody does Star Wars like Texas.
I think Star Wars fans in Texas go way along back because we're the original rebels, Texas and the Alamo. And that really relates to how small the rebellion was, the limited resources they had, but they still had hope.
I think there's a camaraderie here that we have because all Texans look out for one another. That transfers and translates well into Star Wars as well, into Star Wars fandom.
I feel Texas Star Wars fans are more passionate. Like they always say, everything's bigger in Texas. We go overboard on a lot of stuff.
Here in San Antonio, we have a fiesta, which is a party for a week. We like to party. And there's a parade. The headmaster, basically, of the parade, his guard in the parade was the 501st. And so they marched with him in the streets, in full gear, in regalia, in Texas heat. So if you think Texas doesn't have fans, you're completely wrong.
Texas fits into Star Wars in a funny way, in the sense that if you look at the history of Western tropes in science fiction, the cowboy has his roots in Texas. The whole history of cowboys really starts in what we now call Texas. When we first meet Princess Leia and her hair wrapped in the buns that we all think of her when we first meet her, that has a direct tie to histories of Mexico and Texas and the area here where you look at old revolutionary Mexican women who have the same hairstyle and the bandoliers and the guns. Again, the folks who were creating Star Wars were looking at these old frontier stories and all these stories here in the area and compiling that imagery to develop the characters that are in Star Wars.
In 2019, the Bob Bullock Museum in Austin, Texas, held an exhibition titled Cowboys in Space and Fantastic Worlds, a journey through the history of Westerns in science fiction.
The inspiration for Cowboys in Space and Fantastic Worlds dates back to me being a little boy and being fascinated with science fiction and Westerns. Recently, I was at a comic book store where I saw this cover from a Lone Ranger comic book, and the art on the cover reminded me of the art on the cover of Han Solo at Star's End. When I looked at both the covers together and I saw the similar poses, and then I thought, oh my gosh, this is Han Solo and then the Lone Ranger, and solo in Spanish being the word for lone. It really clicked for me right there that there was this space cowboy trope that runs through Star Wars and other science fiction. And that's where I asked myself, where does it start? How far back does it go? I take the history back to right after the Civil War, 6 months after the end of the Civil War, where Jules Verne writes From Earth to Moon. In that book, it's Civil War veterans who bet each other to see if they could shoot basically a giant bullet to the moon, and not just that, but put people inside of it. They debate, do we do this from Texas or Florida? That evolution leads to other authors and science fiction authors imagining these heroic American characters going into space. Those early characters are what George Lucas grows up with. That's what he sees. Characters like Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon, characters like the Lone Ranger. When you look at some of the influences for Star Wars and you look at some of the movies that Lucas is inspired by and literally takes scenes from those old Westerns to make Star Wars, it's incredible. The scene in Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where there's the shootout very early on in Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, you can line that up right next to the scene with Greedo and Han Solo, and Han did shoot first. You can line those two up together and see that they're almost an exact scene, including the architecture of that. The scene with the Searchers, with John Wayne and the Searchers, and there's a scene where the young man comes back to his settlement after the Comanche have devastated the settlement, and you compare that to the scene of Luke coming back and seeing that Uncle Owen has been killed and their settlement has been destroyed. Those are exactly the same scenes. So again, this notion of the Western in science fiction, Lucas carries those tropes into it. He carries that imagery through it. I mean, just last week with the launch of The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, the Mandalorian character, I mean, those opening scenes might as well be a Clint Eastwood spaghetti western from the middle 60s as he's strolling into this town settlement on the frontier, right on the far edges of a frontier. He's a bounty hunter. The bounty hunter trope is a Western trope of going that. So they're not going anywhere. How do we look at that? How do we look at our future? How do we look at our mythological past of the Wild West and our historic past of America's expansion, and how does that define where we're going in the future? Is it really going to be that way? Are we going to repeat those same things that we did in our past?
Hi, do you know where I can find the nearest Starbucks?
What?
Starbucks is a all-American coffee chain from Seattle.
We don't serve your galaxy here.
Okay. I was just joking. I'll tell you what, I'll have a Bantha milk. Thank you. Tastes like breast milk.
Hey, papi.
Hey.
Hi. You're nothing special, princess.
What? Do you want to buy some death sticks?
You don't want to sell me death sticks.
I don't want to sell you the sticks.
You want to go home and rethink your life.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
In today's world, much like the Tanika sisters, brands and big corporations with unrealistic expectations will try anything to dupe or con consumers into buying things they don't need in order to make a simple, quick buck. I love your t-shirt.
Thanks.
However, when used in the proper context, product placement can be an effective tool due to the fact that it enables the audience to develop a stronger connection with the brand in a more organic way. This proved to be true back in the 1970s, when a then 33-year-old George Lucas made 20th Century Fox an irresistible offer by agreeing to cut his Star Wars director's fee in exchange for keeping the merchandising rights. Fox jumped at the deal, given that movie-themed toys were mostly an afterthought and not seen as a lucrative commodity. But May 25th of 1977 would be a day that changed everything, and ultimately sent fans of a galaxy far away into a toy frenzy, and shelves stuffed with a plethora of countless merchandise. Ultimately, the success of Star Wars would go on to reshape the modern toy industry, and its licensing and merchandising strategy would become a standard for film studios when they're promoting their movies. Thank you. Oh look! A toy?
Let me see your identification.
Trust me, these are not the droids you're looking for. However, since 1977, these have been some of the toys that everybody has been looking for. Take a look.
It's a part of my life. I mean, I buy t-shirts and I wear clothes, I buy socks. I mean, anything Star Wars, I purchase.
It's more than just a movie. It's more than just toys. It's having credit cards in your wallet, pulling it out and asking them to choose light side or dark side, because I have both.
There's so much Star Wars out there that you really can't buy everything. So you gotta really narrow it down and figure out what you like and what you want to do with it.
Star Wars was the first movie to really be mass marketed in the form of action figures, dolls, books, at a level beyond anything that had ever been introduced before.
It manifests itself in some nasty ways sometimes, late stage capitalist kind of ways, where we have, you know, Jar Jar on, you know, Pepsi cans or something like that.
They've made some crazy stuff. I actually found on eBay a Ben Kenobi action figure and a lighter that was in some guy's pocket when he got arrested. So I bought that, of course, for my run.
Look at this artwork. Isn't that amazing? What I love is the stuff that's kind of weird, the stuff that you can't believe Star Wars would have licensed. I've got an Ewok toothbrush. For some reason, I bought it back in the mid-'80s. It never got opened.
Back when Phantom Menace came out, you know, there's like a lot of merchandise. Taco Bell, KFC, and Pizza Hut decided to get together and do the Star Wars cups.
Right now, get one of these cool Star Wars collector cups, each featuring one of your favorite characters, exclusively at Taco Bell, KFC, and Pizza Hut.
After the bell would ring on a Friday afternoon after I was in high school, you know, just to kind of start driving around and start collecting my cups because I wanted or 12. It's kind of like a little scavenger hunt around, you know, the metro area in Puerto Rico, driving around. I still have them. Once I started teaching and I became a teacher and I had my own classroom, that was one of the first things that my dad packed in a box and said, here you go, classroom decorations.
The hostage flags, this one I got at Celebration in Orlando. These were made by fan guys that were doing these, and it's just a wampa, and I thought it was so cool. I don't actually know if it's edible or not, but it's pretty cool, and I love it.
This is a card from Topps. It was a mistake. As you can see, it has 3PO, but it had, like, you know,
They were no longer.
his penis. And then when, you know, people were, you know, making aware tops that this was happening, so, you know, they start, you know, taking out of the market. And then what they just did is like, you know, they just like kind of Photoshop the tip of it. You can still see the part of the penis there, but then it ends as his, you know, his body ends. So from afar, you cannot see his male part.
Star Wars has never stopped coming out with things. People either connect with a collection, Star Wars, or toys.
It's very historical that way, and I don't know if people really look at it that way.
It all started back in 1977 with a simple box and a toy company by the name of Kenner, who was willing to take a big gamble with an epic space opera.
The toy industry, the big turning point in the toy industry is Star Wars.
There really is a lot to this that has to do with what kids have these days as far as what they get for gifts, or they buy with their allowance, or they get for a holiday present or anything like that. It's pretty amazing.
I headed to the Big D, aka Dallas, Texas, to meet with a Kenner and toy expert by the name of Stephen Ward.
I appreciate you coming out to have a look at everything, have a look at the collection.
Absolutely.
Ultimately, the process of making an action figure is not too dissimilar, whether it's going to be a Star Wars toy or whether it's going to be something like this, which was the Ninja Turtles line that Playmates did back in the 80s and early 90s. And as a kid who was born in the 80s, this is one of the things that I really kind of came of age around, a line that I really enjoyed playing with. And so these are actually some of the prototypes, some mock-ups for a couple of things for that particular line that were done somewhat in a similar style to a lot of the stuff that Kenner Star Wars stuff was.
When I think of Kenner, I think of these amazing toys with just beautiful box art, limited detail, but yet there's something very unique about it. What is it about Kenner that captivated people's minds?
The most unique thing about Kenner was the people. I mean, just full stop. Especially the period in the 70s and 80s. I mean, that was lightning in a bottle. You couldn't recreate that today, even if you tried. All the money, all the training, all the experience in the world, you couldn't recreate the group of people who came up with some really incredible things for a lot of really, really interesting toy lines.
When I hear the word Kenner, I'm thinking already about my next tattoo. That brand is simply magical for me. The white and the blue, the iconic font, everything about Kenner was a can't miss product.
What allowed Kenner to be as revolutionary as it was, and I really feel like it was revolutionary, the fact that they focused solely on toys and solely on a certain type of toy.
It was toys that really involved the kid and had the kid role play a lot. Easy bake ovens.
I love my Easy Bake Oven. Do you know how to work it and all?
Some educational toys. Toys that were just like a steady state of business.
There was just something special not only about the movies that were coming out, but the toys. And Kenner nailed it.
Without warning, Batman appears.
Surprise, Penguin!
Pity penguins can't fly. Batman returns. Batcave Command Center and figures sold separately.
I remember going to Kmart back in 1991 and buying a Robin Hood Prince of Thieves action figure. While it does actually have some interesting tiebacks to Star Wars, since they did reuse some Star Wars pieces to help create that line, that is definitely the one image that's just burned into my head, is going and actually looking up at those pegs, looking up at the shelves, and picking out a Robin Hood action figure.
Feeling nostalgic, I headed to Austin, Texas to visit a very special place. I had arrived to the Texas Toy Museum, ready to take a trip down memory lane.
My reaction walking into this place was just overwhelming nostalgia. Like all the toys that you love and seeing them again, almost like for the first time as an adult, just flooding back. It's just a really amazing experience.
Sometimes you think you'll never see some of this stuff again, and then here it is.
Being an adult is something that you miss in your life, to remember those times that you were playing with those toys. So I think the Texas Toy Museum gives me that energy from how I was so happy and about my childhood.
From Star Wars ships dangling from the ceiling, to 1980s sensation Cabbage Patch dolls, the overtly muscular Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, to the unforgettable cult classic toys like My Little Pony, and Legos, to name a few. The Texas Toy Museum has a plethora of toys to marvel for hours. Wow. This is amazing.
Thank you.
So, how many toys would you say you have in here?
Oh, in the hundreds of thousands. I'm not even sure. So.
And are these all from your personal collection?
Mostly it's my personal collection. Some of it's on loan. A few things have been donated over time. So, but yeah, years and years of eBay, thrift stores, garage sales.
One thing that I love about it is that you can go down the same aisle multiple times and you always discover something new. Like, I didn't know that there was a line for E.T.
Yeah, and the E.T. toys are interesting. They always kind of creep me out.
And I also love, you have the tick right here.
Yeah, Spoon, that's always a good cartoon from the 90s.
Wow, and of course Indiana Jones. So how did the idea for the Texas Toy Museum came about?
I've always been, of course, a lover of toys. My mom took me around to garage sales when I was little and started with the want to collect and, you know, basically the gotta have them all, gotta complete this whole Star Wars toy line, and that's where I started. But I was a teacher for a long time and got a little bit tired of that. But before I became a teacher, I thought about, oh, it'd be nice if Texas had a toy museum. So originally, I think I shared it with my girlfriend at the time, which became my wife. And I shared it with, you know, my friends and college-age friends and my brother, and kind of fleshed out the idea with that. And everybody was just like, oh, okay, you're just, you know, normal toy collector, mildly obsessive. So if that's what you want to do, and of course, you know, your parents are like, oh, you need a real job though. I kind of bought everything collecting towards having at least an example of everything from the 80s to display for people. But now I'm working on the 70s, the 60s, the 90s, and the early 2000s.
The Texas Toy Museum is anybody's 1980s and 1990s childhood idea of the perfect toy room. This establishment feels like an eclectic toy maze of some of childhood's most beloved iconic dolls and action figures. And our childhood memories would not be possible if it weren't for one very historical toy line from a galaxy far, far away.
And this is where it all started, with the original 12 all the way to the last 17, all your favorite Kenner Star Wars toys. They were always kept with me and very well loved. So a lot of them are worn down, but they're here on display now for everyone to see.
So it's my understanding that prior to the Star Wars toy line, movie studios wouldn't take any risks with movie licenses.
Right, there were a few that tried and failed, but you know, they would only do really name brand things that had been proven by themselves to work, like Star Trek or superheroes, but you didn't see a lot of movie-based toys in the 70s.
For a movie, it was really unheard of because of the lead time to make toys. I mean, it's a year minimum to turn a toy around. Well, Star Wars came out and completely turned that on its head. When it came out, everyone wanted the toys as fast as possible. Even though they signed the contract in March, April of '77, they knew that they had to turn something out by Christmas, so they put out that early bird set.
First of all, it was the first time anybody ever said, hey, buy an empty box, we'll send you some figures. So one thing they did was they taught kids to trust corporations. Which may not be such a great thing.
This is what it was mailed to you. It was on that white box that is on the bottom, inside the box, and the first 4 figures, which was Luke Skywalker, Leia, Chewbacca, and R2-D2. That's what it was sent to you around 1978.
Ultimately, Kenner and Star Wars' legendary partnership led to a boom in collectors across the world, aiming to recapture some of their most priceless times in childhood. In Austin, Texas, Holocron Toy Store has become the mecca for anything Star Wars related.
Thank you for calling Holocron Toy Store. This is Nikki. Yes, we are open 7 days a week, 11 to 8. Holocron is an all Star Wars collectible store. We don't just carry toys, we carry all kinds of officially licensed Star Wars merchandise.
Everything from licensed Chia Pets, movie posters, adults, children, and even newborn apparel. Star Wars Christmas lights, modern action figures, and yes, there is even a dedicated section for the viral sensation character Grogu, unofficially dubbed Baby Yoda by social media.
We try to make this also an experience. We have costume events. Sometimes we'll have the 501st here. The staff will dress up in costume. We'll take photos with people who come in. We will be sometimes in character, depending on the employee. I do in-character stuff all the time, depending on what I'm wearing. We have people who come from all over. I think the furthest we ever had was from Germany.
For mega Star Wars fan Chris Kelly, the drive to Holocron is a 30-minute trip from the town of Dripping Springs, Texas.
When I heard they were opening in Austin, I was like, could there be a more perfect Star Wars location for Austin? My favorite aspect of Holocron is that they have a chronological section of action figures. So if you're looking from something all the way back to 1995, all the way to present, that spans 28 years of collecting. Where else can you go to do that? I mean, you're not going to find that at a Target. You're not going to find that at a KB. You're not going to find that anywhere. You're going to find what's current. This is legacy merchandise.
Today, Chris Kelly is on the hunt for vintage Star Wars Topps trading card wrappers for his personal collection.
Here's an original first series. There's another Jedi, and see that same thing, Bazooka. Let's see what else they've got. Bunch of Empire. I love this because this is going to help complete a lot of my set. Oh, I love the Luke one.
That's really good.
That's nice. I even don't mind them with the price tag, really.
I didn't realize ring pops have been around that long.
Oh, look how cute. That is so
That is
cute.
adorable.
I would pay up to shop at Holocron over eBay and some of these other places. Cool. That's perfect. That's a nice little start. Let's get them. All right, we're gonna head over to the vintage. Yeah, there's a few of these I still need to get carded, but I have that Trilo Yak face. And then droids and Ewoks. Yeah, I think I have all of these.
The amount of merchandise displayed at Holocron Toy Store is not too far off from what the interior of Chris Kelly's home looks like. At approximately 32 miles, Chris Kelly resides within a celestial property on the picturesque hill country.
I would estimate that my collection is, I've probably spent a couple $100,000, but I think it's probably worth, in terms of monetary value, I would say $250,000 or more. Lately, the cost of things have skyrocketed. Things like the Collect All 21 bell-shaped sign, now it's worth several $1,000s. I mean, it's insane how much prices have gone up.
We first got together, Star Wars was not really, it was in between movies in the early 90s. So this kind of happened, this was kind of a bit of a surprise, kind of later in our relationship. By then I was already in love and it was too late. So I took him and his figures because that was the deal. That was part of the compromise.
It's not about the monetary side of the Star Wars universe. It's how can I get somebody else interested in this, and how do I preserve these pieces of plastic for the future? I love the action figures. I love all of them.
Chris has his collection organized by modern and vintage. His modern, which is anything from 1995 and current, sits in his guest house.
Follow me into my modern day Star Wars collection, where I have hung a 6.5-foot Naboo fighter from Toys R Us. It was a Toys R Us store display from the ceiling. Picked it up on Craigslist, bought it, and had it installed from the roof. Each of these is a different series that I collected over the years. But you've got everything from, Episode 3 over here, Saga, 30th anniversary with all the coins, the vintage collection. I've got Clone Wars, I've got the Episode 2, Power of the Jedi, all the way over to Episode 1, So it all started by year and kind of flows throughout the entire room. I kind of wanted it to feel like I was back in Walmart or Target at the time, to be able to see what it would look like to have the whole collection at once offered, along with ships, deluxe vehicles, beast packs, any of the stuff that came out at the time, cantina scenes, whatever, cinema scenes.
That's the stuff I remember vividly growing up. Dad would get the one in the package, the one loose, and then the third one that was for me. Being able to see it in the package the way it was when I got it still, that's really cool.
I'll give myself a letter grade of an A for being a collector. As far as my love and passion for it, I will collect just about anything that makes me happy.
People don't really get it unless they see this. This is a huge collection where, you know, you say, oh, my husband collects Star Wars stuff or Star Wars toys. Oh, okay. But it's usually not a big deal until they see it.
My friends will come over and I'll be like, you want to go see my dad's stuff? And then they're like, oh, this is really cool for the first 5 minutes. And then they're like, that's a lot of stuff. Oh my gosh. And they get like a little overwhelmed and you're like, I told you it's a lot of stuff. Like they don't really believe how much there is.
His collection, I don't think there's anything missing in it. It is, I could spend days playing with Chris and all the figures and toys and posters and everything that he has in his collection. And it's really great to meet somebody who is that passionate about Star Wars and that passionate about the stories and the whole world around it, of how it came together. For me as a curator, it was spectacular to spend time with him.
There are people who say, oh, he doesn't have his priorities right, or does he spend his money or your money, or, you know, those kind of things happen.
I buy constantly. I'm not pushing any children out of the way in the aisle to get to a toy. I help other collectors.
His vintage collection, which is anything from 1978 to 1980s, is stored in the second floor of his house.
Okay, so here's where I keep all the expensive stuff.
I like the way it feels in the vintage room. This room has Chris's favorite things. And so Chris's favorite things, of course, bring me joy too. So, I mean, it's kind of something that we both enjoy, I think, is coming in and going,
Every single drawer, cabinet, I mean, even behind other figures, there's always another treasure in this room. I have my Burger King glasses. These are my original Burger King glasses that I had when I was a kid. Never used them.
There's so many things that are beautifully preserved and beautifully on display. There's a level of excitement and discovery immediately coupled with nostalgia. The autographed figures and the misprints and the full loose collection lined up next to each other with the variants, the different colored weapons, the different colored hair, all of that. That's something that I don't think I'll see in person anywhere else.
I like the artwork. I grew up in the 70s, so a lot of what might be considered pop art, it's very nostalgic. There's a lot in here, so sometimes it's overwhelming to just go, there's so much in here.
The vintage collection room is like an archaeology site, like a Seven Dwarfs mine or something like that. In the process of looking for the thing you vaguely remember, you discover 15 things on the way.
In this room, I have a year-round Christmas tree to put my Hallmark ornaments on it. Fun fact, Carrie Fisher also kept a Christmas tree up year-round. And I just think, why not? Why not have Christmas year-round? I mean, it is nice to come in and be able to see my ornaments and display them how they're supposed to be used on a Christmas tree. And on top of the Christmas tree, I have a light-up lightsaber Yoda.
Having a collection of this magnitude requires an unprecedented amount of space. That was a challenging reality that Chris and his family had to endure.
I had 1,823 square feet. At that time, I had just had our fourth child in that house, and it was a 2-story house.
Our room was kind of in the corner, and then there was a guest room and a bathroom, and my parents' room was all upstairs. And then there was a big open area that was just full of stuff.
It was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we were having more and more and more children, so we needed more space.
We started to not have a dining room. We started to not have anything because I was stacking cases of figures in the kitchen.
I was so scared to walk through it every time, because I was like, I'm gonna break something. And so just like walking back and forth through there, you'd like tiptoe around stuff, make sure you're not hurting anything, and if you ever broke anything, you were just like, hide it, I don't know, don't tell him, we're gonna get in trouble. Because we never knew like what was really important and what wasn't.
We go through the hard times too, like every family does. but we just have commonalities and we both compromise. The first conversation was, okay, we're moving, we need more space for the kids and for the Star Wars.
We decided it was time to make space. So really, Star Wars drove the need for a bigger house as opposed to even having 4 kids.
In 2005, the Kelly family relocated west of Austin, in the town of Dripping Springs, to a property that perfectly housed Chris's eclectic Star Wars collection, and they have since never looked back.
If I had to pick one extreme or the other, I wouldn't change him, because it would totally change his personality and he would not be the same person. And I wouldn't want to change that.
In the fall of 2015, with the anticipation of The Force Awakens, Star Wars fans eagerly looked forward to the release of new merchandise with a midnight global shopping event appropriately titled Force Friday on September 4th. In San Antonio, Texas, fans started to line up outside of a Toys R Us hours before the midnight launch event in hopes of being the first.
I've been getting ready for this event for 3 months, and I've been waiting for it by the minute, literally all day today. I got to Toys R Us at 12 today, and of all days, today was one of the hottest because it was about 104, 105 degrees. So being outside today it's been brutal, but 7 hours in, got 5 more to go for the movie, for the new toys, I should say. I'm getting the 6-inch Blue Trooper first, and then the Kylo Ren. And then Greg, you are attacking. Why don't you code me attack the 6-inch? Yeah, because we can do the 6-inch.
Sabers?
Apple's getting a Saber, because see, the Sabers, he's only have to worry about 3.
The shopping plan is to make sure that we get whatever we want and make sure that everything that's covered that we want to get, that each one of us has a plan that we know what we're going for. So we have a strategy and make sure that leaving here tonight, we're happy.
I've been waiting here a little bit over almost 10 hours, and luckily the Toys R Us is open, so if I have to use the bathroom, I can walk in. Now these next 3 hours, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but right now my mind's just focused on the toys. I need to get the toys. Bathroom can come later, toys first.
Among many of the anticipated action figures, the remote control BB-8 by Sphero was one that fans were desperately clamoring for.
I'm a big droid guy. I love the droids. And when I saw him, I was just like, oh my God, like my heart just sank again for this new droid.
I'm stopping out Target, Walmart, Disney Store, Best Buy. I'm not going to sleep until I get that toy.
But the demand had outstripped supply, and some stores were sold out before merchandise even hit shelves.
So I was at Best Buy. I wasn't even looking for anything Star Wars in particular. But I happened to walk by and I saw one of the Sphero BB-8s on the shelf. The individual that was ringing me up tried to scan it and it wouldn't scan. He went and got a supervisor, and the supervisor was like, oh, that's not even supposed to be out. And I was like, well, that's not my problem. So I want to buy it. And they actually ended up selling it to me a day early. So
BB-8 was not the only piece of merchandise that had limited availability. While in line at Toys R Us, fear of not enough merchandise started to mount among fans alike.
You know, we started feeling groans about it that, you know, probably an hour or two before they just started stocking the shelves with stuff. And we were like, how are they going to stock all this stuff that we're envisioning in our heads in just a matter of hours?
The reports are coming in at Target, Walmart. We're only getting limited supplies. I'm like, what's going on? Panic starts setting in. I'm just worried that it's just gonna be that little section. Why are the Toys R Us pictures look like they don't have anything?
Oh,
like,
I don't know.
Like it's a small.
But like you're saying, if you're the Force Friday official thing, you should.
I mean, your host, half your store should be. Yeah, you should be able to turn away Kylo Ren's. Like, no, I already got 3 in my basket.
Yeah, I'm good.
So I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna give up hope yet. And me being the first in line, I'm thinking I don't have to worry about not getting something that's out there. I'm gonna get everything I want. Okay, man, I got here at 12, and you got here just as early as I did, man. So we're just like, just make sure we got everything. And I know. In 15 minutes we'll go over it one more time, and then This way when we get in there, we just forget everything. We're just like, what did we say?
Episode 1 first came out, people ordered like it was one of the films from the original trilogy. The quality of the movies were nowhere near what the original trilogy was, so a lot of the inventory sat on the shelves. Fast forward to Force Awakens, the distribution for the toys, for the new toys, is completely different because the retailers didn't want to get burned with those inventories again.
They would only send stores like maybe one case, which a case is 6 figures, and they were gone the second they hit the shelves.
And just like that, at the stroke of midnight, doors finally opened, causing a major shopping frenzy as hundreds of people gathered down the official Star Wars toy aisle. But for some eagerly fans, the lack of merchandise left a bitter taste in their mouth.
The individual that took it probably the hardest was Carlos, just because he had been there all day.
There was less than half of what we thought we were getting. Where's all the stuff that, you know, has been leaking out on the internet? You know, it might be, are we all being fooled? You know, what's going on? I mean, we thought we literally would be falling over the toys on the floor because there's so much of it. They don't have the vehicles. And
what else do you get?
This guy. So you want to just hurry, check out?
We gotta go to Target. Yeah, let's go to Target. We gotta go find that BB-8. Dude.
Yeah.
We'll separate everything over there. I had no
I was crushed. I mean, we were all crushed. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, wow, maybe it's not a good thing that Disney owns Star Wars because they tricked us. They got everybody out, everybody excited, and it didn't happen like we thought it was going to happen.
By the time I got there, some of the pegs were empty, you know, so you kind of took what was left. And when we asked if there was more product, they were like, no, there wasn't. I was thinking they were going to refill or have backup on everything, and they didn't. So that was kind of disappointing because a lot of the figures that I wanted, I couldn't get.
The B and C, the smaller doors for these major retailers, didn't get much, if any, replenishment. So you would walk into your local Target, it would have the exact same assortment as when they set the aisle the first time. That to me was the biggest opportunity from these new toy lines.
As a fan, I felt that they did play against our emotions. Hasbro, kind of going back a few years, had issues with distribution when it came to the vintage collections. That, I guess, carried over to this, where you had, you know, maybe one or two of one figure on the shelf.
Had they taken the time to load up all their shopping carts and put one of each figure in a shopping cart, and then allow that one of each figure come in and say, here, take a shopping cart, go right to the checkout and buy your purchases. They're all in mint condition and you have one of everything. You would have better flow through the building. We could have been on to Walmart by 12:15. That didn't happen. So that was another case of where they should have listened to the fans and found out how to satisfy the need for everybody.
They knew they were going to have crowds. They knew with the new Star Wars release and The Force Awakens, they knew that people were going to, they want the product, they want the action figures, the vehicles, the exclusives, and they should have had more to put out. And a lot of people left disappointed, and I understand that.
They didn't have what we thought they were going to have. They didn't have the vehicles, they didn't have nothing.
You were figuring what could have been if you would have went to Target instead of Toys R Us.
So we're going to check out and go to the other one. You ready to check out and go to the... Mind you, I had budgeted $1,000 budget. I walk out only spending $63. And I'm thinking, wow, this is Force Friday and I've only spent $63. I was devastated.
The fervor of finding these toys was over, and we all looked at each other in the parking lot. It was like, man, this wasn't good. But I think Carlos was the one who was hit the hardest, and I kind of will be the calming ear to him. He was able to get some pieces that I know a lot of people weren't able to get, and just telling him, hey, you got some of the main pieces that I didn't even get to get those, so be happy with what you got. And he you know, kind of was like, yeah, I guess you're right.
2 years later, the Force Friday 2 event was held at midnight on September 1st, 2017, in celebration of the 8th film in the saga, Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Grab them, man. Grab a basket.
Last one, buddy.
You got the last one?
That's it.
What you get?
Oh, shit.
What you get? I got a t-shirt. My game plan tonight was, I looked at the list. I knew what I wanted. I went on the websites. I looked at a lot of the figures that were on there, and I already knew what I wanted. It's exactly what I wanted to get. It's perfect. I value my collection, all of it, as the same. People think, oh, that's the new stuff, that's this and that. No, for me, it's Star Wars. And that's what people don't get. If you put a label on it saying, oh, that's not Star Wars, well, it is Star Wars. But for me, Star Wars is everything, encompasses everything. The most exciting part of the night was finding the Luke 3 3/4-inch figure. Just one. It was right behind, one of the pegs. That's insane. No one saw it back there. I feel good. It's a good figure. It was amazing to get that one, but I think everyone else was looking for that one too. So yeah, Luke. There was one. No one saw him. Isn't that sweet?
Where was it?
It was behind like a whole bunch of them. The figure didn't come out from the first movie, The Force Awakens. They didn't make a Luke in 3 3/4-inch, so to have him now was really special, and I knew I had to have that one. So just having it in my collection is going to be great.
There was just a different Kylo Ren.
Here's a Kylo. Let's switch that. Give me the Kylo. It's a great one. I'm so excited because for now I got everything that I wanted, especially the Black Series. Luke and Speeder, amazing. And with this Force Friday, I was able to get more than what I expected. I was able to go back and actually look for more stuff, things that I missed on the first round. Took my time a little bit more.
Ready?
Oh, that's not too bad. How much I spent in total today? I spent over $500. It beats paying on eBay more and plus shipping. I don't need anything else. Well, I might need something later on, but I got everything I wanted, so I'm happy.
Sadly, for fans like Joe Gutierrez, this would mark the last time a Force Friday event was held at Toys R Us.
Children will no longer grow up wanting to be Toys R Us kids. It's the end of an era.
It's official now. Later today, Toys R Us will file liquidation papers, effectively closing or selling all of its U.S. stores. The company's CEO notified employees yesterday about 33,000 people now stand to lose their jobs.
Toys R Us's failures reside in their business plan. It was always mismanaged and misrun. That's why they're vacating the market. They would hold back on Furby if Furby was hot, and then all of a sudden, magically around November, they had tons of product to put on the shelves. Of course, their prices were higher than everyone else's, higher than Walmart, higher than Target, so they would try to have a good back end of the year. Well, that worked until there was Amazon, and now you could go online and purchase a product or buy it off eBay and have it sent right to your house.
When I think about today's generation of kids and where they're going and what their play is like nowadays, it's very different from the way it was when I was a kid and when I was growing up. They don't want to play imagination. They don't want to play with figures. They're just like, well, isn't there an app for that? Can't I just get on my phone? Like, they're not interested in playing with the toys or watching the movies.
They're less interested in toys because they have to do the work with the toy. With an app or a video game, they're a part of the story rather than recreating it themselves.
If we could have some new exciting figure that kids love and enjoy and have all the stories they can create themselves, that would really add to the toy line.
The iconic toy chain made a comeback in 2022 with hundreds of small shops inside of Macy's stores across the country.
It'll never be the same as back in the days when you had to grab the paper thing and bring it up to the front to buy the Nintendo game, or that's that bicycle tire smell that the whole place was permeated with. So until they have like the big box stores, I don't really consider it back.
In honor of Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, a third and final shopping event was held on October 4th, 2019, titled Triple Force Friday. But with the vacancy of big box giants like Toys R Us, things were a bit different this time.
Force Friday 2019 was a letdown. To put it lightly.
I showed up at 11 p.m. ready for Force Friday, and I went to 3 Walmarts myself. I've never had a Force Friday like Triple Force Friday where they just flat-ass did not even know it was Force Friday. Nobody cared. Everyone was clueless.
The biggest thing that I got for The Rise of Skywalker was this Dio droid, which it's just a little remote control thing that spews a few random sounds. There were a few action figures. I think there was a book tie-in, but there wasn't much. Not for Star Wars. They had plenty of stuff for Frozen 2.
There was virtually nothing. One PDQ with a bunch of lightsabers and cartoon figures that nobody cares about. I asked a few people and I'm like, okay, where's my merch? And they're like, we have no idea what you're talking about. We're only doing Frozen 2. I'm like, are you kidding me? You think a bunch of 8-year-olds are going to be here at midnight? This is ridiculous. That movie sucks. I said, nobody wants this. This is ridiculous. I couldn't stand Frozen 1. It was like somebody sat there and wrote it sequentially, and they're like, screw it, here's a snowman. Fucking a reindeer. I mean, it was ridiculous. You're going to give Frozen 2 the same street date as Star Wars? What's wrong with you, Disney? This is ridiculous.
It's just not the same experience as a kid walking into a toy store today as it was back whenever I was that age.
Despite the obstacles and challenges that the toy industry may face, one thing is clear: Star Wars toys will always hold a special place in people's hearts.
I'm not gonna lie, I had some pretty awesome movie ideas playing with my action figures growing up as a kid. I should have been able to write some Star Wars movies. I mean,
you hear the horror stories on the news about people going into Walmart and like knocking down Walmart associates and knocking each other down, and there's incidents and people fighting over flat screens. They want it because it's cheap. What I saw was a community of collectors, of fans, that were like, oh, okay, this is your space. You grab that, I'll grab this. They showed each other respect. They showed each other that, this is gonna sound cheesy, but we're all in this together. You know, we're all showing our love for the movie by buying this stuff because we're excited about this movie.
The love of Star Wars is still there. You know, when you stand in line next to someone for 6-8 hours at a time, you start talking about, I remember back in 99 and 2002, 2005, I'll do Force Friday again just because it brings people together.
This is some rescue. When you come in here, didn't you have a plan for getting out?
That's much better. Oh, look! An original VHS copy of 1999's Star Wars The Phantom Menace. Who would throw this away?
Put the thing away. You're gonna get us all killed, Luke.
You know what they say, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Who are you talking to, Luke?
To our friends at home.
I don't see anybody.
Okay, girl, you need to stop pretending. Clearly we are on a soundstage. You see our friends from the Star Wars Stuff podcast, David and Ray. Hi, guys.
I still don't see anything.
Let's face it, playing dress up and make-believe is not just for kids. We all have dreamed about flying an X-Wing, going into hyperspace inside of the Falcon, wielding a lightsaber during an epic duel, or even entertain the thought of joining the evil Empire at some point in our lives. That's the beauty and power of Star Wars. Since 1977, its personal, engaging adventures,
I'm Luke Skywalker, I'm here to rescue you,
and compelling characters have invited its audience to participate and imagine endless possibilities. Throughout the world, fans from all walks of life honor and celebrate their love of Star Wars by dressing up as some of their favorite characters, with many putting an immense amount of effort into every detail in order to ensure that their costumes are completely screen accurate. And even when it comes to the universe, no character is off limits. Even Jar Jar Binks.
Mr. Back.
Did you hear that?
Oh well, now you're gonna pretend?
Oh my gosh, I swear I just saw something.
Alejandro! I think Alejandro's not available. I'm gonna go ahead and give it away for him. Take a look.
In the fall of 2015, while many fans were hoping to get their hands on the in-demand BB-8 by Sphero, some fans were building life-size, screen-accurate versions instead. The BB-8 builders are a division within the Droid Builders Club, an international community of fans who build and own replica robots from the Star Wars universe, with the most popular being R2-D2. At a comic convention in San Antonio, Texas, local droid builders host a panel for curious fans.
So you want to build a droid, either R2, BB-8, R5, or any type of
even Wally or Johnny Five or any of that. So let me introduce our panelists. I'm here with Jimmy Machan, Alex Wolf, Jose Medina. We're the local Central Texas Droid Builders Club. Not just a all guys R2 group. There are female builders out there.
Liz is
so it's a Star Wars. It's an everybody's group.
I mean, if we'll let Jason in.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll let anybody in.
Exactly.
One of the things that we kind of wanted to go through is it's not a cheap hobby. My droid, I stopped counting at about $3,000. I stopped telling my wife at about $2,000. I probably, what's that? Oh yeah.
Some people have R2 units that cost $17,000 or more, depending on the materials and supply and the quality of the material. You know, if you go all aluminum or steel or stuff like that, obviously it's more expensive.
My droid cost me somewhere around the ballpark of $8,000, but I've seen completed droids that look just as good as mine that move around and light up and all that, and they've been done for as little as $1,000.
Some look like R2, some look like ones you've never seen before, and they'll individualize it and paint them whatever colors they want.
I think I'm the coolest guy in Nuevo Laredo right now because I show it off. So
I don't look at myself as being highly skilled. I mean, I tell people, it's like, you can build it. When I talk to people at conventions and see it, I'm like, go build it. If you want to build it, learn how to do it. It's a lot of work, but it's not too difficult.
What do you think attracts people to the droids and characters like R2-D2?
Star Wars is a story told by the droids, really. It's their adventure that they've been through. I think I fell in love with R2, you know, the fact that he doesn't have a human language. I think it's the same with Grogu. Not being able to understand him makes him even more lovable. His whines and chirps and beeps and stuff just, you know, it leaves it to your imagination more of what he's actually saying. Hello R2, how are you? Oh, that's good to hear. Even has a few little surprise attachments. His life form scanner. So this is featured in the Empire Strikes Back movie. So he's got his little gripper arm here. Little smoke spray. Each different keystroke has a pattern that's been programmed in for a different routine. So if I wanted him to do a dance, I'll press this button, go to the right here.
The things that makes me connect to the droids personally, the fact that they are a character of their own, but yet they're not human. They show emotion that's not the same type of emotion that people have. So it's fascinating to me that to think about a future where there could be robots that we interact with on a daily basis.
For Houston droid builder Jesse Maricelli, his latest venture is the iconic and golden humanoid robot C-3PO.
The thing that I really liked about C-3PO was his kind of dry humor and the aspect of him kind of being a comic relief, him and R2-D2 kind of bantering together.
Go that way. You'll be malfunctioning within a day, you nearsighted scrap pile.
What inspired me to build C-3PO is that nobody else had done it. I started around 2018 or so. I wanted for C-3PO to be able to be accessible to everyone who wanted to build one. And the best way I knew would be to 3D model the outside suit so people could 3D print a suit. It took me about 2 years, but after I got done 3D modeling, I started in on a design for an under animatronic mechanism that would give life to the C-3PO. C-3PO uses an animatronic animation software. Once I found that software, it allowed me the capability to give more emotion and more life to C-3PO than I even planned on having.
Where do you think you're going? Well, I'm not going that way. It's much too rocky. This way is much easier. What makes you think there are settlements over there? Don't get technical with me. What mission? What are you talking about? I've just about had enough of you. Go that way. You'll be malfunctioning within a day, you nearsighted scrap pile. And don't let me catch you following me, begging for help, because you won't get it.
The way that this works is all of the animatronics come off of a program that runs off the laptop. I have to program each individual servo and joint individually over the course of the sequence.
Jesse's C-3PO is so special that it even had a personal message for me.
With a text-to-speech editor online, I can make it say anything I want it to say. I wanted to make something special for Alejandro, so I wanted to give him just a special welcome.
Welcome, Alejandro Cabrera. I'm C-3PO, human-cyborg relations.
This is Texas, and he has some opinions about the weather here in Texas.
This Texas heat is unbearable. We seem to be made to suffer. It's our lot in life.
It is a little robotic sounding, but it sounds very believable to be Anthony Daniels' voice.
The origins of the droid builders dates back to 1999, when a fan by the name of Dave Everett founded the R2-D2 Builders Club. Inspired by his love of the character, member Jamie McShann founded the Central Texas Droid Builders. The division serves the San Antonio and Austin, Texas area.
I'm kind of a maker. I like to build strange things, gadgets, whatnot. And so I was looking on the internet, and sure enough, there's a club, the R2-D2 Builders Club. So I started looking at all of the blueprints and things that they had online and said, you know what, I'm gonna do this. That was 2008. I was pretty much the first R2-D2 builder in this area. And as of right now, I'm probably one of maybe 2 or 3 at the most in Austin and San Antonio. There's only about 2 or 3 there as well.
For those fans who want to physically walk in the shoes of some of the faraway galaxy's most notorious and iconic characters, there are costume fan groups like the Mandalorian mercs themselves. If collecting a bounty is not your thing, then you can always have the option of joining the good guys and become a member of the Rebel Legion. And then there's the global 501st Legion, also known as Vader's Fist.
501st is basically a worldwide Star Wars costuming organization. What we do is we utilize movie quality Star Wars costumes as well as we do charity work.
What attracted me to the 501st was that in my military career, we did a lot of events outside of the military. We did a lot of community service. And here I am retired, and the 501st is making troops to help out Make-A-Wish Foundation, children's hospitals, the Boy Scouts of America.
The 501st was founded by Alvin Johnson, and he started building costumes in his garage for movie premieres back in 1997. That sort of evolved into the worldwide organization that we have today.
Hey, what's happening?
Here in Texas, we have the Star Garrison, and it is one of the largest garrisons in the 501st. The only garrison that is larger is the UK Garrison. We used to incorporate Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas, but we have grown so big that we are just now in Texas. And we have the North Texas Squad, which is the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Texas Gulf Coast Squad, which is kind of the McAllen, Corpus area of Texas, the West Texas Squad, the Central Texas Squad, which is the Austin area. We have here, which is the Imperial Rough Rider Squad, and then we have the Desert Inferno Squad, which is kind of far west Panhandle section of Texas, and then we have the South Texas Squad, which is Houston area.
Within the 501st Legion, members who join have the option of choosing from a wide range of characters that tend to lean on the dark side of the Force.
Anything from a stormtrooper to a snowtrooper to a biker scout to Darth Vader himself.
When I first joined the 501st, Boba Fett was who I ultimately wanted to be. However, it is one of the most complicated costumes in the 501st, next to Darth Vader.
Despite a plethora of options regarding new and old characters for costuming, there is one that never goes out of style for members. The classic Stormtrooper, also known as the TK, is everyone's favorite option.
The TK is probably one of the most iconic ones. You know, that's what drew me to join the 501st. I just wanted to have a cool Stormtrooper costume. And, you know, when people see Stormtroopers, they immediately think about Star Wars.
They look very similar, but, you know, they're all different heights and they're all different people, and so they have different voices, and so I think it's a fun way to be a character that I can make unique, because it doesn't, they don't have a set story. We don't know anything really about the Stormtroopers.
When I put it on the first time, it immediately took me back to being like a child. It's that visceral feeling that you've seen it growing up, and then all of a sudden it's real. So it's tangible, you're actually touching it, and you're in that costume. And when you put the helmet on, or what we call a bucket, it completely transforms you, and you take on that persona as a Stormtrooper.
When you're walking in that costume and you see those kids, and it's like they're seeing a movie star in front of them. They don't know your face. All they see is that epic visor-shaped helmet, and they're just enamored by it.
You're literally jumping off the screen to them. They can actually go over there and talk to you and interact with you and touch you and all those things.
I'll never get tired of seeing kids light up like that, and it just makes me wish that when I was a kid, the 501st was around, because I probably would have been even a bigger fan than I am now.
That is the biggest thing about it, having kids of my own and watching kids' faces, and it's funny, even adults' faces, older adults, that it instantly takes them back to their childhood, and they see, oh, that's a Stormtrooper. Their eyes light up, and they get this huge smile. And we get people all the time, and they come over, let me take a picture, it's for my grandson. You're like, yeah, right, it's for you. No, you ain't gotta lie to us,
Some people are drawn to them or like them is because sometimes they are looked at as like the kind of goofy characters that no matter how many times they shoot with their blaster, they manage to never actually hit anything. And so being a Stormtrooper is, you can get a ton of Stormtroopers together, and honestly, the more you have, the better it is.
If serving the Empire is not your thing, then you can always join Saber Guild, where members have the option of becoming a Jedi or a Sith. At an annual convention in Houston, members of the Jakku Temple Saber Guild in Austin have traveled in hopes of recruiting new people for the local club.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul. I am the Assistant Local Director of Jakku Temple of Saber Guild. We are more of a stage combat, stage performance group. That means that everything we do is planned, everything we do is practiced. We're a bunch of volunteers that give back to the community and try to make the galaxy a brighter place.
Saber Guild is the most demanding of the clubs just because of time. There's a whole physical aspect to it. Again, we're swinging lightsabers at each other, and within Jakku, we make sure that we do that at a pretty fast pace.
It takes practice to get out there and safely be swinging a lightsaber and defending yourself against it. So it's physical, we get out there, we move. It's exercise, you sweat. We're out there in 90, 100 degree heat sometimes.
Did I get you? Sorry, did I get a tip?
Yeah, just a tip.
Oh.
Like I had to do a check for a second. Like when you kicked, you didn't bring it up high enough. I was expecting it up here.
I had it. Problem was, I went like this and the pants didn't stretch. I was like, no, it's low.
People always ask me, why do you do this? Why do you do this? You can't really say why you do it, you just do it. Our demographic is off the chart. Single moms, we've got professional ladies, we have chemical engineers, we have so many different people. And you see them come together from these diverse backgrounds and put together a performance and see them interact with the kids and the charities we're supporting. It's hard not to be a part of it.
In Saber Guild, members have a choice between embracing the light side of the Force by dressing up as a Jedi Knight, or daring to take a walk down the dark side and becoming a Sith character for their stage performances. The colors of their costume help distinguish between the Jedi, aka the good guys, or Sith, the bad guys, and fabric is the way in which it comes to life.
So this is a standard Jedi uniform, costume. It consists of an outer tunic, an under tunic, 2 tabards, an obi, and a belt. The outer tunic is kind of designed after a karate gi. So you need about 6 yards of material, a pattern, and you just kind of put it together. You can probably put it together in about 4 hours after all the cutting and after all the sewing.
You can choose a generic Jedi and kind of create your own story within that, or you can have a face character. So in thinking about that, I wanted to bring a little bit from my Puerto Rican culture into that. Being Puerto Rican, we do have our Taino culture, so I was trying to think of what cool Taino names can I name my Jedi. So we ended up with Caraya, which means moon. So it kind of seemed fitting since, it's Star Wars is in outer space, so moon. There's a little bit of the color scheme that you can do with that as long as they're like earth tones. So I chose to pick like a very light robe, and then for my tabard to my obi, I picked like a really nice light teal. So it just kind of reminds me a little bit of Puerto Rico as well, with like the sand and the ocean, that kind of color scheme, since, you know, I grew up going to a beach pretty much every weekend, and it just makes me feel at home. At least one time that I go visit down there, I get to see the beauty of the ocean and just share it with my family. But definitely the food, it's what brings us all together.
Specific and distinctive makeup styles, leather and fabric are the way in which Saber Guild costumes come to life. But for 501st members, the materials are a little bit more unconventional, and sometimes its plastic nature is plagued with its own set of challenges. In Houston, some of the members of the South Texas Squad organized an armor party to help with some of the obstacles new members might encounter when building their new armor.
Today we just got a bunch of recruits, existing troopers, working on new armor. Most of us are clones. Everybody's working on helmets, kits, repairs.
Hey Jack, what do you think? You think sitting too high? Because the problem I'm seeing over here is, see how it's at this angle instead of... I found out the problem. He has to bulk up first.
Hey, whoa, watch it.
The biggest challenge I ran into is I'm a big guy. I started putting on the armor and I was seeing gaps in the costume that just looked weird. It's challenging because you have to size it to yourself to fit you specifically, and we come in all shapes and forms.
Most of the time it's coming off a sheet. Somebody molded it and sent it to you in a box. So you have to literally cut it, hold it up to you. Your buddies that are there will hold and tape, measure and cut, and measure some, cut some more, and measure and form and cut. And that's how we create these costumes. It's a labor of love.
You spend so much money on it. Nothing's cut to your size. It's very intimidating knowing that if you cut too much, you can't put the material back.
You're looking at this whole big pile of plastic bits that are intimidating. It's a lot of stuff and you don't know what to do with it. So it's an intimidating process to start building. And even when you've been doing it for years, I have a thing I've been working on for 2 years, and every time I start it up again, it's just where did I leave off? What do I, and it's a very intimidating process.
The importance of armor parties really comes with being able to build socially. We can work with each other and ask questions and just watch how other people do their jobs in building their armor specifically. That way it's a community learning experience, so it really helps to not only work together, but also so that we can motivate each other to actually get our kits done. It's a found family. Like, I've got this on my wrist. This is in Mandoa, which is the language of the Mandalorians, and it translates to Elite Orishia Taldin, which translates to family is more than blood. And I really feel like I have a new family through organizations like the 501st.
I see 501st people well more than I see my actual family. And it's a crazy thing that happens.
For members like Melissa and Tanner, the 501st organization led them to discover a bond beyond their interest of Star Wars.
My most memorable moments is actually meeting my wife for the first time. You can't beat that.
The Star Wars duo settled into a beautiful home in the town of Katy, Texas, just outside of the metropolitan city of Houston.
If I was going to date somebody I liked a lot, I wanted to see if they wanted to have kids, because it's kind of like one of those deal breakers. So when we were dating, we were discussing children's names.
My favorite character is Mara Jade from the extended universe, so right away I knew I wanted her name to be Jade Marie, which is just Mara Jade switched around. For us, Star Wars is for everybody, so we don't have like girly toys for her or boyish toys. Like, we don't really consider toys boys or girls. She wears Star Wars pajamas. Her favorite pajamas are her Darth Vader pajamas. We just want her to grow up loving everything with no judgments or no discriminations.
I met my wife Melissa in 2015, and we actually went to a con in Richmond. So I was like, yeah, I want her. I want to definitely take care of her and want her in my life, the rest of my life, because she's beautiful and she's dressed up as a Mandalorian, which is just, it blew my mind, because it's just hot. That's the best way to describe it for us. It's just hot all the time.
I definitely had like an instant crush. Of course, I thought he was really cute. Not your typical guy that you meet at a convention, so I thought that was kind of what drew me to him.
I actually helped her get into her Mandalorian at the time, and That was the first time I met her, and it was a really cool bonding experience. And we basically hung out the entire time, and we kind of played around because people thought we were married for whatever reason, so we just kind of went with it.
After a year of dating, the couple decided to tie the knot on October 15th, 2016, in true Star Wars form.
One of our best friends actually married us and his stormtrooper on the beach. So, and our marriage certificate actually has a stamp of the Imperial cog on it.
We love that intimate and that unique style of our wedding that we had. And then we decided to have a big wedding for our friends and family. And I let Tanner, my husband, choose the theme, and he decided to pick Star Wars, country, and Lion King. So I somehow had to figure out how to incorporate those three elements into a tasteful wedding, which was quite the challenge, but I hope that I was able to pull it off pretty well.
The King family expanded on September 2017 when they welcomed their first daughter, Jade Marie. Not only was she named after a character in the Star Wars universe, but her nursery was straight from a galaxy far away.
I've been planning first child's nursery for years, so I wanted to make the nursery room Hoth themed, and so that's what I did. I chose icy colors, I chose very cool colors.
When you walk in here, you're actually stepping on Hoth. All the ideas, decorations, all Melissa, I don't fight her on it. I just go, okay, let's do it, and I'll try to figure out what I can do to help her.
The Wampa rug that's in there, that's one of Jade's favorite things that she loves to hug on. My favorite part of Jade's nursery is her AT-AT rocking horse that was handmade by our really good friends Sergio and Liz. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. We just can't wait for Jade to be big enough to fully enjoy it.
Cog and the Rebel Phoenix, that's kind of one of my favorite because that was one of the coolest things that really brought the room out. So I think it's really cool because it kind of shows everyone that just because we like the 501st or the Mercs or the Rebel Legion, we can work all together.
They both stand out, and they both easily integrate, anywhere they are. They have a love for Star Wars. They both have great costumes, and they definitely are unique in that aspect.
If there is anything indicative about Tanner and Melissa's charismatic charm, is not their classic traditional Star Wars costumes, but rather their daring and unconventional takes on some of the most iconic ones.
I turned around and I see this guy in this slave girl bikini come running at me, and it was Tanner. I had no idea that he was doing that kind of cosplay. And then I saw his wife as Han Solo, a complete flip-flop, which you expect, and it was great.
I was like, oh my gosh, because I love that. I also love that I was part of the fun in that convention. We just went all the floor together, the three of us, and people had a lot of fun just watching the three of us together.
I think I started to get a little bit jealous of Tanner and his slave layup, just purely because of the attention he was getting.
A girl like you doing it in a place like this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
He doesn't care. He just wants to have fun, and he's really entertaining. He's great. He's a funny guy.
It's just everyone's just more freaking out about me, and she's just kind of like, what about me?
Melissa, photo with you. I know.
Coming back.
There you go.
I don't like to be all out screaming in your face Star Wars. I like to do more subtle touches where you don't notice it as easily.
Oh, you're Han Solo too?
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Y'all look great. Thank you so much.
I don't know, just him strutting around being his normal fun self. And everybody wanted to take pictures, and here I am standing off to the side in my handmade costume, my Han Solo costume that nobody wanted a picture of.
Thank you.
You're a braver man than I am.
It's weird. These guys get more aggressive when it's another guy.
Even though I have a Death Trooper, I have my Mando, I have a Stormtrooper, for whatever reason, everyone's like, no, you gotta do your slave Leia. I'm like,
I think he gained a lot of confidence the first time he wore it.
I really try to mimic what Carrie Fisher did for all her photos in the slave Leia. So I try to do the leg poses, the hip thrust, and all that, just to really sell the character.
Tanner definitely has a following with his slave Leia costume. You know, luckily he has the body to pull it off. He wouldn't want to see me in a bikini.
So I understand when you do your Princess Leia crossplay, you actually have a method and that, you know, you take it very, very seriously, that there's a process to it.
Getting into Princess Leia, it's a very, since it's such a revealing costume, I like to be as physically ready as possible. So I like to definitely change my diet, work out a lot more, and it kind of helps me keep me motivated. But it's definitely one of those things that that's only wear it once or twice a year, because I want to make sure when I do it right. I don't just half-ass it.
He's proud of it, and it's just a icebreaker. It's a way to get someone to just drop their guard and be like, that's just hilarious. I've never seen a dude wear the Slave Leia bikini outfit before, and obviously he gets that attention, and everybody comes over there, and then him and his wife swapped costumes just for the fun of it, just to get attention and just to get the laugh out of it. So there's another person like, oh, well, that's the Star Wars costume. And so now you have someone that's interested, like, well, where did you get this from? Oh, I'm in the 501st, you know, we just did this for the fun of it. And so one more person has now been exposed to the 501st and the funny side that we love to do, because we're constantly doing pranks and funny pictures and stuff like that in our costumes.
This is the kind of relationship that every fan of the Star Wars would like to have. It's about actually complimenting the other one. So just the fact that it's not only him dressing as she, but also her complimenting him, for me, is just amazing.
We don't look like the stereotypical Star Wars fans just based off of what the media portrays, and I think people are often surprised when they find out what our hobby is. It's more like a lifestyle for us, but it's funny to watch their reactions when I tell them, like, yeah, we actually are Star Wars costumers.
For Saber Guild members like Heather Trupia, it's inspired her to implement a set of values from Jakku Temple and Star Wars into her career as an elementary school educator.
On the carpet, watch me walking. All right, are we ready? Class.
Yes.
I'm one with the Force.
The Force is with me.
Awesome, I have all your attention now. We're strong in the Force, we're listening. We use attention getters as teachers. You know, kids get talkative and say, I'm one with the Force, and all the kids go, the Force is with me. And it gets them actively engaged looking at me. You know, they're pointing to me, so their eyes are to me.
I headed to Camino Real Elementary School in my own version of a collegiate Sith to get a lesson in Star Wars from the Master Jedi herself. Well, Heather, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to talking to you today. I could see why they call you the Star Wars teacher. I'm gonna have to go back to school, because this is you're probably one of the coolest teachers here.
I had a third grader, right? I can't believe I had a teacher that used Star Wars to inspire me. It became part of who I am, the crazy Star Wars teacher.
Gosh, I would have been like at Harvard if I had a teacher this cool. So
He understands that, you know, kids love Star Wars, so that's another connection that you can make with your students, and, you know, just use that connection and that knowledge of them liking it, and how can she relate that and make it work for her in her classroom.
I like Star Wars growing up. Seeing Luke swinging a saber, it's fun. But it wasn't something that I was passionate about. It wasn't something that I was out there watching all the time and collecting. I saw what a connection Star Wars made with the young kids. So I started bringing more of it into my classroom.
I actually found something called a growth and fixed mindset that had to do with Star Wars. Here I have Yoda here, he's got a growth mindset, and of course Darth Vader, he's got a fixed mindset. What we talked about with the kids is we went through, you know, a growth mindset, I won't give up until I'm proud. Every mistake I make is progress. With my kids, I encourage mistakes. It's okay, we learn from them. We know as adults that we learn from them. Students shouldn't be afraid to make mistakes.
There is so much that if you love it and you can connect it back and you can teach the students through that, you should definitely be utilizing that. So I champion her and her school for letting her, because not every school would be that open-minded to let somebody do that.
Things are tough sometimes, and kids are looking for something to connect with us as adults here, as teachers, as people who care, as people who like something that they like. So I've really been able to just keep adding a little bit more to the point where now it's like, Strippy, why are you so obsessed with Star Wars in the classroom? You know, even the parents get into it too. I've had parents thank me for getting their kids into Star Wars and that they now love Star Wars because they were in my classroom. And so it makes connections with parents too. And a good part of my job is working with parents and showing them that we are a team where these students are now my students. They're my kids, I tell them. Kids want to be heard. They want to be listened to. They want to feel like that there's somebody there who cares. And I tell my students, you're the reason I'm here. And you see that wow factor sometimes. You know, they look at you like, okay, she cares.
At her school, Heather also uses Star Wars as a way to promote literacy in her classroom.
She talks about the importance of, you know, the Jedi having knowledge and, you know, learning from their past and reading and literacy, and she will bring that into her classroom.
I heard that some of you did an awesome job reading to the first grade teachers downstairs and the second grade classrooms downstairs. So now Mrs. Truppi is going to read to you a little bit, okay? Chapter 1. The Jedi Council learned that Grievous was taking Master Koth to the planet of Saleucami.
A lot of our students move around a lot from school to school, and they'll come in and they'll be struggling. Sometimes English is their second language. One of my kids was struggling really bad, and he was in second grade, and he was reading at like kindergarten level, and you know, we're reading together and we're working every day. He finally says, I got this, Mrs. Trivia, I can read this. And you see the excitement over reading these simple sentences. Those are the moments you look forward to, when they get excited about the learning.
Since October 2017, Heather has been hosting an annual Star Wars Read Day celebration at her elementary school. The event is designed to showcase the importance of reading and literacy. She accomplishes this by enlisting the help of her fellow teachers and colleagues. Oftentimes, members of the Jakku Temple Saber Guild will visit the school and read to the children.
It's been exciting to use Star Wars, and the kids would get so excited just seeing us up there. He'd come up there and we'd do a whole show and talk about, you know, using your strengths and using what your master teachers taught you.
Anybody remember Kylo Ren? Oh my goodness. All right, so I've been training hard, masters, okay? I've been training hard and learning from Obi-Wan, reading a book. Do you know there's a lot to learn from a book? Even for a Jedi. But I've been training hard with Master Luthor over here. And Master, I think I'm ready to show you what I've learned. Are you ready? Getting the whole school involved in literacy was a big success today. From teachers wearing Star Wars shirts, just showing that unity together. And that's really what we want in school.
Regardless of what fan group you may belong to, the uniting force for all is charity and community.
Hi, how are you? Ooh, look at your pillow. I love it. Well, we heard we had a big Star Wars fan here. Yeah, you want to take a picture? All right. You want to take a picture, Mom and Dad? All right, come on in. Everybody scoot in. You want to hold my saber? Yeah? Awesome. All right, you got it. He's got Ray's saber. He's ready to fight.
Hospital visits are probably the most emotionally taxing event we do. You see a little kid in the hospital bed suffering from whatever affliction they may have at the time. You know, you're coming in as a Star Wars fan, and they recognize you. They know who you are, especially if you bring a face character like Old Man Luke or Kylo Ren or Rey. They know instantly who you are.
We've heard all about you. Are you a Star Wars fan? You are? Oh my goodness. Well, we came to the right room then, didn't we? Who's your favorite character? He is?
When you go to a hospital, whatever disease or problem that they're having, they forget about that at that moment and they just engulfed in your character. They hug you, they ask you questions, they just stare at you and think you're real. And even the doctors and nurses, I think sometimes they're even more impressed with us than the kids.
Although it brings 15 minutes of happiness to the kid, it's really great to see the parents. They get kind of a breath of relief because, you know, they see their kid happy.
The release of The Force Awakens in 2015 had many fans eagerly excited to revisit a galaxy far away after nearly 10 years of the franchise being absent from the big screen. But for one fan by the name of Daniel Fleetwood, this latest installment represented a new hope for him.
People are like going to be immediately back into Star Wars, like, I can't wait for that movie, that was awesome.
Unfortunately for Daniel and his wife Ashley, the last few months have been difficult dealing with his cancer diagnosis.
When you found out about the cancer, what was your first reaction?
When I found out about the cancer, my first reaction was fear. I was so scared. This past summer, these past few weeks, months have been really wonderful to spend time with him, and my biggest fear is not having him here afterwards. We bought this house together, and he got cancer 2 months after. This house being empty and him not being here, that's my biggest fear. We had plans to have kids and retire, and none of that is going to happen for us. Spend the time with your loved ones while they're healthy. Don't wait till they're sick and on death's door. Just spend the time with the people that you love and the people that matter.
In the fall of 2015, his wife Ashley started an online campaign titled Force for Daniel in hopes of granting his final wish. That wish was to see Star Wars The Force Awakens a month before the movie was released. The campaign went viral.
Daniel Fleetwood. Now, he's a Star Wars fan. He has got terminal cancer. He's got a last wish to see the new Star Wars movie before it is officially released.
Daniel Fleetwood is dying. He has terminal cancer. In September, he was given 2 months to live, so he's literally on borrowed time.
Judging by how progressive the disease has gotten in the past 2 months, I really don't think that I'll be able to make it.
Daniel received so much support from fans all over the world. Many sent letters with inspiring messages, cards and posters with get well wishes.
When the story went viral, first I never, ever expected something like that to happen. I still cannot wrap my brain around how wonderful people are.
Some fans even traveled and showed up in costume to support Daniel and Ashley at their home in Springs, Texas. Many were 501st Legion members who presented him with gifts and even made him an honorary member.
No way. That's for you. Dude, that is amazing. Oh.
Glad to be here for you, man.
Dude, you're amazing.
I can't even put words to it. It's a feeling. It's a family. There's a feeling that Star Wars evokes out of people. And when you get more fans or costumers or 501st or Rebel Legion or Mando Mercs, it's just a feeling. It's a communion. I don't know how to put words to it. It's just part of a universal language.
It's hard to keep hope and not lose faith in humanity when you're losing the one you love to such a disgusting, horrible illness. It's still hard to fathom the amount of people that are in our camp for us and for Daniel.
Despite the campaign going viral and even having the support of actors like Mark Hamill and John Boyega, Disney or Lucasfilm had yet to respond to Daniel's request.
Obviously, it's been a week. You haven't heard anything from Disney. What's the process like? Waiting. What's that waiting process like?
The waiting process to hear something back from Disney is almost agonizing because I know that Daniel is holding on for an answer. Not saying that a no would kill him. I'm saying that it's giving him hope, and that's great. Just hearing something from them would be wonderful. It's been kind of pins and needles all week. It's been exciting, but it's also been lots of anxiety comes along with that. So I would just love to hear an answer, any answer, yes, no. We'd just be grateful for a response.
It's kind of the only thing left. It's the only thing left. I don't want any material objects, because I'm not going to be able to take any of those with me. And I just want to see the movie. Please take me into consideration. My health is declining pretty rapidly.
On November 5th, 2015, Daniel's wish was finally granted when he got a private screening of The Force Awakens.
I think what made fans connect the most with that is that it empowered the fans to, if an outpouring of support is big enough, we can actually make a difference with these big corporations. Corporations tend to focus on the bottom line, focus on their profit, but I think when they see the fans and they saw that outpouring of support, we almost forced them to respond in a way, which is what I think was cool.
Sadly, Daniel lost his battle with cancer on November 10th, 2015. He was 32 years old at the time. In San Antonio, members of the Wookiee Walk honored him.
First for Daniel. It was a dear friend of ours, Star Wars fanatic. He was diagnosed with cancer. He had until about Christmas time to make it, and he didn't feel like he was going to make it. His last and final wish was to see the new Star Wars film coming out. Disney and J.J. Abrams approved to let him see the new Star Wars film. In Jedi spirit and honoring him, hold your lightsabers up out of respect and give tribute to him.
When he had them raise their lightsabers for Daniel, it was such a beautiful moment that it's something that I don't think any of us, any of the people who are there, any of us that are in the Wookiee Walk team will ever forget. Force for Daniel will still continue.
In 2019, Ashley relocated to Dallas, Texas. It had been 6 years to the day since we met back in early November 2015, and I was in town to talk about what happened in Ashley's life since the events of Force for Daniel campaign.
The last 6 years for me have changed quite a bit. There was a bit of me having to find my identity again after Daniel passed away, not only just as a single person and as a widow and as someone that lost someone very young. For a long while I was Daniel's wife. I wasn't Ashley. My name wasn't even included, and I was okay with that for a little while, but then it started to get a little frustrating because I was struggling with trying to figure out who I was again. And it wasn't just during the Star Wars campaign, it was the whole time Daniel had cancer. It's just everybody puts their life on hold when they're trying to care for someone. It was a challenge to rediscover myself, and I know it's been 6 years, but I think I'm still doing that a little bit. I have a better understanding of myself, but I think that's kind of a continual process.
You and I met in November 3rd, 2015. And right after the next day, you received a phone call from J.J. Abrams himself. What was it like getting that phone call, and what do you remember about it?
He said, "Hi, is Ashton there?" And I said, "No." Because, "Oh, I'm sorry, Ashley. Is Ashley there?" And I said, "Yeah, this is her. This is J.J. Abrams." And I was like, "No, it's not." And he's like, "No, it's really, it's J.J. Abrams. We'd like to grant Daniel's wish." I thought I was going to pass out when I got the phone call. He said they'll be there tomorrow. They're going to be there around 10 or 11 o'clock. You need to sign some waivers, and just please don't say anything until after. So the movie was a 4-hour cut, and so it wasn't quite finished. There were still a few little things, like BB-8 had a person in a green suit behind him, like rolling him around, and so in certain scenes you could still see the person because of that. It was so long. And Daniel, because of his health, he would get tired and he'd have to take a little nap. The person that came out to do all the technology setup, he wasn't watching the movie, he was watching Daniel. And anytime he saw Daniel start to get tired, he said, "Okay, we're going to pause it for a little bit," and he'd let Daniel rest. And I thought that really warmed my heart that they cared so much to make sure he got the full experience and didn't miss anything.
Due to the magnitude of the Force for Daniel campaign and the direct association with Star Wars: The Force Awakens film, Ashley faced some challenging roads ahead.
How hard was it mourning in public? I mean, you are a private person who was put under certain circumstances because of the Force for Daniel campaign. It went viral. What were some of the challenges that came with that?
It had its pros and its cons. In a way, it was very helpful to have so much support behind me. Once Daniel passed, people were reaching out to me constantly, sending me messages, calling me, but there at the same time, it was a little difficult because I was worried about being judged. Maybe people, I would think, maybe they don't think I'm sad enough looking, or maybe they don't, I know about a couple weeks after he passed, I had a picture where I was smiling, and I got some nasty emails, but I kept reminding myself that, well, they don't know me, they know me through this phenomenon that happened for Daniel, and not through knowing me personally.
No matter how private you are as a person, once you go through this kind of a situation and it's associated with one of the biggest brands of all time, every single thing you do is going to be scrutinized by thousands of people.
The internet's the biggest thing that people are allowed to communicate and really post their negative comments, and the media likes to fixate on negative stuff because that kind of drives stories more.
Is it true that you showed the Star Wars movie to a guy who was dying?
Daniel Fleetwood, who was sadly terminally ill and had reached out in many ways, Twitter, but also personally, to see this movie. And we've been very lucky to get to show the film to a handful of people who have been in unfortunate situations.
Did you feel manipulated by that? You know, there are some people who will even use that to get to see a movie.
Yes.
And they're full of shit.
These are not people who are looking to screw us over.
You had them vetted.
Yes. And he passed away, I think, 5 days
Right, I was
after
going to say, that guy owned up and died, right.
Did you, right, he put his money where his mouth was.
He owned up. I've spoken to the people who have seen the film both before and after, and it's been very sobering and an honor to get to do it. I mean, the fact that these people care enough about this world that George Lucas created to want to see this movie.
But JJ, did any of the dying people come to you and say, thank you for showing this to me, but boy, oh boy, this was a huge disappointment. I don't know why I bothered with this. I mean, I only have a few days left to live.
I'm so sorry I did this.
And you fucked me over.
When I see something like that on Howard Stern, first of all, I'm like, ick. He doesn't know what people really are going through there. He doesn't care what people are going through there. You know, when we're in this group, we see the real struggle of people. We see the hurt. We see a wife losing her husband, and seeing somebody laugh over, oh, well, you know, he died. He put that up. You know, he proved it by dying. How insensitive is that? And I think that's a pretty sad way to use somebody's hurt and struggle that they went through.
When I heard about the Howard Stern interview, I honestly just wanted to punch her in the face, Robin in the face. That was really very heartless of her. It took a lot of time for me to step back and realize, you know, we all do this with celebrity. To be honest, before everything that happened with Daniel, I was one of those people too. I was like, oh, I can't believe that actress is doing that. Well, who am I to judge her? I don't know her. I don't know her life. I don't know the trials and difficulties that she may have faced. At the time, though, it was very insensitive, and it was very, very terrible of her to say and him to do. I was very grateful for how gracious J.J. Abrams was in his response. I felt that that was very on point and very great, beautiful of him to stand up for Daniel. And it just makes me be less judgy.
In the late spring of 2016, Ashley began dating again.
When did you feel that you could allow yourself to consider dating again?
Probably between 6 and 8 months after Daniel passed away, which I know it was hard because it felt very soon, and it does sound very soon. Something that wasn't just made super public was that, you know, Daniel was sick for a long time due to his type of cancer. The way it was affecting his body, there wasn't a lot of physical intimacy going on, and it's almost like we were best friends. And it's nothing to do with him, it was just how the cancer affected our relationship. And so about 6 to 8 months, I thought, you know, I think I'm gonna at least try talking to some people and see. I was so worried that, you know, I was turning 30, and I was like, no one's gonna be interested in some 30 widowed. Daniel sat me down And this was about a couple weeks before he passed away. He said, I want you to promise me that you're going to date again and that you're going to try to find love again because you're too young to be lonely. He held my hands and he made me promise that. And I didn't know this at the time, but he also called one of my best friend's cat and he told her the same thing. He said, you need to make sure to get her back out there, to not let her be alone, because I've been here, but I know she's been lonely. And so part of me wanted to fulfill that promise for Daniel. And then the other part of me did want to try to continue with life because his got cut so short.
Ashley met Tony Stanley on a popular dating site, and the rest is history.
I wanted to find a platform where I could meet people that were not as immersed in the Star Wars world. And so I was like, I'll get on a dating site.
She liked my picture first, and I think I winked back at her or I messaged her. That's how we kind of started the conversation. And I think what really kind of not threw me at her, but kind of was intrigued was, colored hair.
And we met at a Starbucks coffee shop, and it was supposed to be like a, 30-minute hour, depending on how it goes. And we ended up talking for about 6 hours.
For one, I think I was a couple of minutes late to the first meeting, but I kind of thought in my head, I was like, I'm really hoping something good comes out of this.
By 2017, things were looking better for Ashley, and after a year of being together, Tony Stanley proposed to her that December.
She got some really negative comments saying that you're moving too soon, how could you do this? I mean, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, I'm with her. It's am I doing something wrong, or did I do something wrong to have them put all this negative towards her?
For the process of grieving, everybody's different, and it's really none of anybody's business to judge. We're all gonna go through our own process and find peace with what is going on. You're not necessarily replacing a loved one, you're just opening the chapter to your next adventures.
On October 2018, Ashley and Tony Stanley got married, surrounded by friends and family, in an intimate ceremony near Houston, Texas.
That day happened so fast, everything was going 100 miles an hour. But me standing at that altar with my best friend next to me, just seeing her walk down the aisle, the moment those doors opened, I don't know if you remember, I just started holding them tears back, When she got halfway, I'm like, this is the best day of my life.
When I was walking down the aisle looking at Tony, the only two things going through my head was, one, I didn't want to trip going down the aisle, and secondly, I was just seeing Tony and his eyes were tearing up, and my heart was exploding.
I want to spend the rest of my life with this beautiful person. Me just thinking about it right now, I'm sorry. It was a dream come true, because in my past, I wasn't sure if I was going to meet that person or be with that person. But the day that I met her, I was hoping it was going to go somewhere. And then a year later, 2017, when I proposed to her, I was like, this is really happening. And then a year later, it happened, and I can't be more happy, man.
We're so lucky to have Ashley in our lives, and I wish we could have met Daniel. And to see her evolve from where she was at that point when Daniel passed away into where she is now, with having attended her and Tony's wedding recently. It's just so amazing to see how the group has kind of taken her in.
Ashley Stanley has inspired me because of how strong she has been throughout all of this experience. She could have just given up and said life wasn't worth living, but she decided to move on with the next chapter of her life as bravely as she could. And even though she went through a terrible thing, there's been great things that have happened to her since then.
I try to tell myself that without pain, you won't value and appreciate the good times. I need to appreciate every second I have.
On December 2019, Ashley and Tony Stanley proudly welcome their first child, Jeffrey.
Looking into my son's eyes, a lot of things go through my mind. I never want him to suffer the way that Daniel suffered. And I want him to find love and happiness the way that me and Tony have found love and happiness. And I just always want him to have that support and that love that I have from my family, my friends.
Having him come into this world, I'm hoping that I can bring the best future he can possibly have. I want to be there for him, no matter what.
Jeffrey is the outcome of one missed pill. For that to happen, it's really rare, and I don't know, I feel like maybe their souls passed in heaven. Maybe Daniel was like, hey, maybe you can go down there and be there for Ashley. I don't know, I feel like there's some type of connection.
In July 2022, Ashley and Tony Stanley expanded their family unit of 3 by welcoming their second child, a boy by the name of Thatcher.
What would the Ashley version of 2015 want to know about the Ashley in this current present?
I just didn't think I was going to be happy again. I didn't think that I was going to find happiness again. I didn't think that I was going to find light in the world again. I felt like my life was over. And it would have been nice in a way to know that there was going to be light again and so much joy. I would have liked to have told her, don't feel guilty for finding happiness again, because that still is a little bit of a struggle that I have, but every day gets a little bit better with feeling a little less guilty for being happy.
Days before The Rise of Skywalker came out, you wrote this very beautiful, empowering post on Facebook. I'm going to read you a little bit. Now, days before the final movie comes out, we will be welcoming our little boy into the world. I feel as if the circle of life has really come full circle during this trilogy. What started with sadness, death, with the first movie is now ending with the birth of new life as the final movie, episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, comes out.
Yes, I did feel that way, and I still do. It did feel like a full circle with the darkness that I was going through, and the movie comes out, and then the second one came out, and I was finding happiness and love with Tony, and then the third one came out right before I was bringing new life in the world. When the first movie came out, I was losing the most important thing to me, and so it really showed that life is secular, and that kind of what Star Wars movies show, that they one trilogy or one storyline may kind of end, but it brings life to a new group, a new family, a new story, a new epic journey. And that's kind of how I feel like my life is going. I'm so happy. I'm very happy now. I don't think I could be any happier. I really don't. I have an amazing husband. I have a beautiful son.
Life, much like Star Wars, is a hero's journey. In it, we are all protagonists of our own narratives, and such journey bring us face to face with ourselves.
When Star Wars came out, there was this ability for me to connect with Skywalker, with Luke, as a young man trying to make his way in a world that was not easy.
My father used to say, "May the Force be with you," every single day. He just transformed Star Wars into just a way to communicate the values that he wanted us to grow up with. It's a big part of who I am.
And every new chapter in our lives presents itself with a new call to adventure and a promising quest.
Choices that these characters had to make were choices that we make every day, and that's something that's always resonated with me.
Star Wars is a story of hope. What Star Wars can provide is a beacon of light to guide us in the path that we need to go in order to make the world a better place.
It connects generations in a way that few other things have been able to do.
It's escapism, and now more than ever, we need that escapism. We need to be able to sit down for 2.5 hours and forget about the world.
But the ultimate, most exciting, and significant journey of all is life itself. So follow your bliss and embrace every moment. And maybe someday, you might find yourself in a galaxy far, far away.